people lack insight in how they come over to others. This is a deep failing that most people suffer from. The other thing that happened, a lot of people don't realize this, is the first statement the Polish CEO released was actually not apologetic at all. And this guy was completely unmoved by the plight of the child. Very worrying. Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Raj Persaud. I'm a consultant doctor and psychiatrist, and I'm based in private practice in Harley Street in London in the United Kingdom. I want to talk a little bit today about what has infamously become known as the hat incident at the US Open Tennis Championships. I want to explore it because there's some video of a piece of behaviour that has gone viral, and people have been quick to move to condemnation of the central character involved, and we'll be discussing why that might be and whether it's justified or not. But in moving so quickly to condemn, they have not seen some details of behaviour where a psychiatrist would pay a lot of attention to and could draw perhaps even deeper conclusions, maybe even more ominous conclusions than the average layperson has. So I want to examine the video and do a psychiatric analysis of it because I believe it can assist you when you're thinking about other people's behaviour and motivation. And one key thing we notice in psychiatry is people are very bad at the fine, detailed observation of other people that is necessary in order to become more skilled in handling other people. And I want also to think a little bit about a deeper sense of what could be really going on here that perhaps has been missed by all the people making all the comments. So let's start by just talking a little bit about what actually happened, and I'm going to read a little bit from the BBC website. The headline is, let's just find it, CEO who snatched boy's hat at US Open says he made huge mistake. The man who was caught on camera snatching a hat off a young boy at the US Open has said he made a huge mistake after footage of the incident went viral. Now, sorry, I may not be pronouncing the poor man's name correctly, but I'll have a go. Piotr Szczerek, a Polish chief executive of a paving firm, said he was convinced tennis star, again I may not pronounce this correctly, Kamil Maczarek, had been passing his hat in my direction. I know I did something that seemed like consciously collecting a memento from a child, he wrote in a statement. That wasn't my intention, but it doesn't change the fact that I hurt the boy and disappointed the fans. So first thing is his statement here. I know I did something that seemed like consciously collecting memento from a child. No, mate. It seemed a lot worse than that. It seemed like you stole something from a child. Not that you, let's see what he says there, consciously collecting a memento. So he's digging a deeper hole for him in his description of the event. And that's quite interesting to a psychiatrist in that people lack insight in how they come over to others. This is a deep failing that most people suffer from, and this is clearly an example of that. Right, the video taken during Macharek's match on Thursday showed the tennis player offering his cap to a child before Mr. Szczerek appears to take it. He doesn't appear to take it, he just snatches it, basically, from the pathway from the tennis ace who was handing it to the child. So the BBC website's being a bit kind here, I think. Versions of the clip were shared widely on social media and prompted criticism of Mr. Szczerek's actions. Prompted more than criticism, it prompted outrage and condemnation. Again, the BBC are being very kind here to this gentleman. The 50-year-old wrote on social media on Monday, I would like to unequivocally apologise to the injured boy, his family, as well as all the fans and the player himself. He added that he had given the hat back to the boy and hoped that it had at least partially repaired the damage that was done. No, I don't think handing the hat back Again, amazing, isn't it? I mean, the man's a multimillionaire and runs a company. Given the scale of outrage, you can't just hand the hat back. You've got to do something else, like buy him tickets for the final. Okay, that's what you got to do to repair. So again, interesting how when people mess up, how they fail to understand the scale of the injury to the other party, and therefore don't understand the scale they need to climb, the mountain they need to climb to fix it. This guy is trying to fix it in a relatively trivial way, which again, to a psychiatrist, is quite revealing, I think. Machurak, 29, who had just won his match against Russian ninth seed Karen Khachanov, sorry, I may not have pronounced that right, when the incident unfolded, told the BBC he believed he did what most of athletes would do in this kind of situation, adding he hoped the boy and his family had a great day. You can see a little bit of a sense in which this tennis ace is feeling a bit guilty. He's thinking, God, did I do something wrong? I mean, I handed the hat to the child. Maybe I didn't hand it emphatically enough to the child. Maybe I'm partly responsible. And that's telling you something about this guy, right? He's quite a sensitive chap. And he's a bit more thoughtful than the Polish millionaire. He earlier indicated to the New York Post that he felt there had been some kind of confusion. I was pointing, giving the hat, but I had a lot going on after my match, after being super tired and super excited for the win, he said. You see, the undertone here is the tennis ace who signed the cap is a bit worried that actually he did something wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He was inundated by fans. He was busy signing. It was difficult for him to keep track of what happened to the hat. If you watch the video very closely, he hands the hat to the child and then looks away. So he doesn't see that the hat doesn't make it to the child because the Polish CEO has his hand has snaked in and snatched the hat away. And it was the tennis ace was naturally oblivious to this, given he was being inundated by autograph hunters. I was pointing, giving the hat, but I had a lot going on after my match, after being super tired and super excited for the win, he said. I just missed it. I'm sure the guy was also acting in the moment of heat, in the moment of emotions. He's being very kind here, which tells you something about this guy, this tennis ace. Very generous. And apparently the next day he made sure that the boy had lots of hats and lots of other things as a recompense. The tennis star reunited with the boy over the weekend, sharing clips of him giving the young fan a cap and other merchandise on Instagram. This tennis ace is not responsible for what went wrong. He's, however, showered the poor kid with gifts. The Polish CEO who snatched the hat just gave the hat back. Nothing else. Okay, so that's quite interesting and revealing. The other thing that happened, a lot of people don't realize this, is the first statement the Polish CEO released was actually not apologetic at all. He only became apologetic when the scale of the misdemeanor, in terms of how rampant it went over social media, began to dawn on this gentleman. His first statement is this. Yes, I took it. Yes, I did it quickly. But as I've always said, life is first come, first served. I understand that some people might not like it, but please, let's not make a global scandal out of the hat. It's just a hat. If you were faster, you would have it. Piotr Szczerek, CEO of Drogbrook. So, mate, I've got to speak to you directly now as a psychiatrist. In this statement, you have focused on the idea that it's all about a hat. It's not all about a hat. It's about a child. And the statement is very revealing psychologically. He's focused, this guy, on the hat. He doesn't realize that the scandal is about the fact he took something from a child. The child is the more important issue, not the hat so much. If you look at the video very, very carefully, some things emerge that I think have been ignored by people not really being very observant. So the tennis ace signs the hat, tries to hand it to the child. The Polish CEO, Piotr Szczerek, standing next to the child, snatches the hat away, keeps it on the other side of his body away from the child, which is very interesting because it looks like almost this guy's done this before. He does it in almost such a professional way, snatching stuff. So the other thing that's happened that it has been ignored by the video going viral is the child protests loudly. He's sort of almost screaming, "It's my hat." You can't really hear on the video, but you can see that the child is agitated. Again, it's not just that this man took the hat. He did it and then had an agitated child trying to get the hat back. And this guy was completely unmoved by the plight of the child. Very worrying, I would say, for an adult to be unmoved by a distressed child. And as we can see from the statement afterwards, he seems almost to be pleased that he managed to beat the child in his speed of reflexes. So the child is distressed. This Piotr Szczerek, the Polish CEO, moves the hat away from the child and then quickly folds it up and puts it in a handbag or a bag being held by the woman who is accompanying him. Again, it's quite significant to my way of thinking as a psychiatrist trying to unpack behaviour and understand what's going on, that the woman seems a bit oblivious to what's going on. She's got the hat and she doesn't seem to really care where it came from. To be fair to her, she may not have seen the whole incident because the man's body was between her and the child. Anyway, the next thing that happens is the man turns back to the child to hand back the child the pen that was used to sign the hat. So the Polish CEO knew the pen belonged to the child. He saw the fact, therefore, that the hat was being signed by a pen that the child had offered the tennis ace. So it's pretty obvious the hat was destined for the child. So there's other things going on that we've discussed in terms of the behaviour that makes the behaviour even worse if we think about what's going on. This man is competitive with a very young child. Now, the other thing that's very strange about the initial statement, he goes, but please, let's not make a global scandal out of the hat. It's just a hat. Well, mate, if it was just a hat, why were you so keen to have it? And here we come to the nub of the matter. Why this guy was so keen on this hat to the extent of hurting a child's feelings and snatching it from him is about a deep malaise to do with why people go to events, and particularly sporting events. He was at the front. This was an expensive seat he had bought, okay? I think that the reason the hat became important, deeply important, was a showing off factor. He wanted to show off to all his friends afterwards. See, I got a hat with an autograph. I must have been at the front, okay? If I was at the front, I'd paid a lot of money for the seats. Ergo, I'm a wealthy guy. You see the cascade of symbolism, right? He's not saying to these people directly, because that would be not acceptable, even in America, which is a more commercial, competitive, and materialist in an open, brazen way than Britain and Europe. You're not really allowed to say, look, mate, I've got a lot of money, I buy expensive seats right at the front. But you show the hat to people with the autograph, and they can put two and two together. Oh, you must have been at the front. The tennis ace was signing memorabilia for people at the front. So the hat was not just a hat. There was deep psychological meaning in why he needed to get that hat. Finally, the other thing to notice is that this man was surrounded, besides his female companion, on all sides by children who were clamouring to get the tennis ace to sign stuff. Little did the children know that actually the biggest kid of all was in their midst. A child trapped in a man's body. Thank you very much.